The one thing we all share is a countdown, a biological timer ticking away since the moment we're born. Imagine waking up every morning feeling stronger than you did yesterday. Picture your cells regenerating rather than deteriorating. What if I told you the richest man on Earth is investing billions not in space, not in AI, but in something far more personal, stopping his own biological clock? Jeff Bezos didn't build the world's most customer-centric company just to run out of time. The man who revolutionized how we shop is now attempting to revolutionize how long we live. And he's not just dabbling, he's pouring billions into what might be the most ambitious scientific pursuit in human history. The question isn't whether billionaires want to live longer, it's whether they'll succeed before the rest of us even understand what's happening. What does a man do after he's conquered commerce, media, and begun exploring space? He confronts the one enemy no amount of money has ever defeated: death itself. Billionaires like Bezos face a unique paradox. They possess virtually unlimited resources to reshape the world around them, yet remain powerless against their own mortality. This ultimate limitation seems almost personal. Time, the great equalizer. The billionaire and the bus driver both get 24 hours in a day, both moving inexorably toward the same destination. But what if that wasn't inevitable? As longevity researcher Dr. David Sinclair once said, "For someone who's spent their life overcoming impossible challenges, accepting death feels like admitting defeat." And Jeff Bezos doesn't like to lose. This isn't just another business venture, it's existential, the ultimate disruption. While most of us accept our finite existence, Bezos looks at death the way he once looked at bookstores, as an outdated system ready to be reimagined. But can even the world's greatest strategic mind outmaneuver humanity's oldest adversary? In 2021, quietly and with little fanfare, Bezos became the primary backer of Altos Labs, possibly the most well-funded longevity startup in history. While the world was distracted by space tourism and metaverse hype, Bezos was assembling a scientific dream team with a far more audacious goal: rewriting the code of life itself. $3 billion. Let that figure wash over you. It's more than the GDP of some small nations, more than the annual medical research budget for many diseases. All directed at a single question: can we hack the aging process? What makes Altos different isn't just its massive funding, it's the caliber of scientific talent they've assembled. Imagine bringing together Nobel laureates, genetic pioneers, and computational biologists from Harvard, Stanford, and the world's top research institutions. Offering them unlimited resources and a single mandate: solve aging. At the center of their research is Dr. Shinya Yamanaka, who won a Nobel Prize for discovering that mature cells can be reprogrammed to become younger. Not metaphorically younger, literally younger at a cellular level. These Yamanaka factors, as they're now called, essentially tell your cells to forget their age, to reset, to rewind the biological clock that dictates cellular deterioration. This isn't about living slightly longer or feeling better in old age. The science Bezos is funding aims to fundamentally rewrite human biology. In laboratory experiments, these techniques have already extended animal lifespans by up to 50%. Applied to humans, this could mean someone who's 70 having the cellular health of someone half their age. Let that sink in. Not looking younger, but being younger, from the inside out. Not fighting the symptoms of aging, but reversing its fundamental cause. For perspective, consider this. If traditional medicine is like maintaining an aging car, replacing parts as they fail, what Bezos is funding is more like giving the car the ability to remanufacture itself back to the condition it was in when it left the factory. And he's not doing this for humanity. Not yet, anyway. He's doing it for himself. Bezos isn't alone in this high-stakes race against the clock. In fact, he's in the middle of what might be the most consequential competition in human history, with the prize being nothing less than eternal life. When you accumulate more wealth than you could spend in a dozen lifetimes, what becomes your most precious resource? Time. And these titans of industry want more of it. much more. Peter Thiel, the enigmatic PayPal co-founder and early Facebook investor, has invested millions in parabiosis research, the controversial science of using young blood to rejuvenate older bodies. What sounds like vampire fiction is being studied in some of America's top laboratories. Thiel doesn't care if it sounds macabre. He cares if it works. And preliminary studies suggest compounds in young blood might indeed have rejuvenating effects. Brian Johnson, less famous but perhaps more extreme, spends over $2 million annually on his Blueprint protocol, a regimen so intense it supposedly reversed his biological age by years. Every morning, Johnson consumes dozens of supplements. He undergoes hundreds of experimental procedures annually. His entire life has become a scientific experiment with a single subject: himself. The results? His team claims he has the heart of a 37-year-old, the skin of a 28-year-old, and the lung capacity of an 18-year-old, despite being in his 40s. Elon Musk approaches the problem differently. While Bezos tries to keep your biological body running indefinitely, Musk's Neuralink explores whether consciousness could someday exist beyond our biological bodies entirely. If you can't beat death, perhaps you can cheat it by transferring your mind to something that doesn't age. It sounds like science fiction, but so did space travel and electric vehicles before Musk tackled those frontiers. These aren't hobbyists or eccentrics. These are some of the most successful strategic thinkers of our time, treating aging as a technical problem to be solved, not an inevitable reality to accept. And they're not asking permission. They're not waiting for societal consensus or ethical debate. They're moving forward with the same relentless drive that built their empires. For them, every day without a breakthrough is another day closer to the one enemy they can't currently defeat. And they're pouring resources into this fight at an unprecedented scale. While his scientists work on tomorrow's breakthroughs, Bezos has clearly begun implementing today's best longevity practices in his own life. He's not waiting for science to catch up. He's becoming his own experiment. The physical transformation has been remarkable. The once bookish CEO with a slight frame and receding hairline has transformed into what social media calls swole Bezos, building significant muscle mass, one of the most reliable predictors of longevity. This isn't vanity, it's strategy. As we age, we naturally lose muscle mass, a condition called sarcopenia that accelerates overall decline. By building muscle now, Bezos is essentially creating a biological reserve against future aging. Sources close to him suggest his routine likely includes intermittent fasting, restricting eating to an 8-hour window each day, which triggers autophagy, the cellular cleanup crew that removes damaged components and recycles them. Studies show this process can dramatically slow cellular aging. Strength training specifically designed to maintain muscle mass and bone density, both critical factors in longevity. Notice how his regimen focuses not on aesthetics but on functional strength. Rigorous sleep optimization using cutting-edge technology to maximize deep sleep when most cellular repair happens. Insiders suggest his bedroom likely resembles a sleep lab more than a typical billionaire's suite. Nutrition focused on longevity-promoting compounds like resveratrol, spermidine, and quercetin, molecules shown to activate longevity pathways in cells. His diet reportedly eliminates all processed foods and sugar, inflammatory agents that accelerate aging. Regular biomarker testing far beyond standard medical care, tracking hundreds of metrics from hormone levels to inflammatory markers, allowing his team to make real-time adjustments to his protocol. But make no mistake, these personal efforts are just a stopgap. The daily regimen, the physical transformation, they're merely buying time. The real goal isn't adding a few extra years or looking better in a t-shirt. It's redefining human lifespan entirely. In Bezos's mind, every day of vitality he can maintain increases his chances of living long enough to benefit from the more radical breakthroughs his billions are funding. It's not about living to 100, it's about living long enough to live forever. But extending life isn't as simple as flipping a biological switch. The same mechanisms that keep cells youthful can also make them dangerous. Cancer, at its core, is immortality gone wrong. Cells that refuse to age and die as they should. By manipulating the aging process, scientists could inadvertently create new pathways for disease. In some early animal experiments, attempts at cellular rejuvenation led to explosive tumor growth. The line between regeneration and cancer is frighteningly thin. Dr. Jennifer Cohen, bioethicist at Stanford University, warns, "We're tampering with systems that evolved over millions of years. The hubris in assuming we can improve them without consequences is staggering." Death and renewal are fundamental to nature's design. Cellular senescence, the process where cells stop dividing, evolved as a cancer prevention mechanism. Disable it, and we might unleash biological chaos. Even if we solve the cancer problem, other complications loom. What happens to immune function in unnaturally extended lifespans? What about degenerative brain conditions? Extending life without maintaining cognitive function could create a nightmare scenario. Dr. Maria Konovalenko, longevity researcher at Buck Institute, explains, "Living longer only matters if those additional years are healthy ones. The goal isn't just lifespan extension, it's health span extension." Beyond the physical risks lies something perhaps more troubling: the societal impact. A world where death becomes optional would fundamentally change what it means to be human. Our entire social structure is built around generational turnover. Our moral frameworks, our economic systems, our sense of purpose, all predicated on the understanding that our time is finite. What happens when that assumption no longer holds? Imagine a world where the wealthy accumulate not just more money than everyone else, but more time. Where death becomes optional for some, but remains inevitable for most. Already, the ultra-wealthy access medical care orders of magnitude better than average citizens. They receive experimental treatments, personalized protocols, and preventative screenings unavailable to most. Life extension would dramatically amplify this divide. What happens to democracy when some voters might live for centuries? When policy decisions affecting future generations are made by people who will actually live to see those futures? What happens to family wealth when dynasties never end? When fortunes compound not for decades, but for centuries? When inheritance never passes down because the original owners simply don't die? What happens to opportunity when positions of power are held indefinitely? When CEO tenures last a century instead of a decade? When younger generations wait not years but decades for leadership roles? This isn't just about Bezos living longer. It's about fundamentally altering the social contract that has governed human civilization since its beginning. Dr. Felix Murray, author of The Immortality Gap, puts it bluntly, "Throughout history, death has been the great equalizer. The pharaoh and the slave both face the same ultimate fate. Remove that certainty, and you've created a species divergence more significant than anything in human history." Some futurists predict a bifurcation of humanity, those with access to radical life extension and those without. An upper class that lives for centuries and a lower class with traditional lifespans. Not just separate economies, but separate species. Others believe the technology will eventually democratize, like smartphones and internet access before it. Initial versions might cost billions, but economies of scale could eventually make basic life extension widely available. Dr. Aubrey de Grey, a pioneering longevity researcher, argues, "These treatments will become universal, just as antibiotics did. The moral imperative to provide them will be too strong to resist." The truth is, nobody knows because we've never faced this possibility before. We're entering uncharted ethical territory, and the man funding this research hasn't addressed these questions publicly. Is Bezos considering the societal implications of his quest? Does he have a plan for equitable distribution? Or is this simply about saving himself? Beyond the science and ethics lies a deeper, more fundamental question. What would immortality even mean? Much of what gives human life meaning, its preciousness, its urgency, its poignancy, comes from its finite nature. Our limited time forces us to prioritize, to choose, to live deliberately. Deadlines drive action. The knowledge that this might be my only chance pushes us to take risks, to love deeply, to create ambitiously. Would Jeff Bezos find the same drive to shoot for the stars if time stretched endlessly before him? Would any of us maintain our sense of purpose without the countdown? Philosophers have debated for millennia whether mortality is a curse or the very thing that gives life its sweetness. Epicurus argued that death should not concern us. Heidegger suggested our awareness of death is what makes authentic living possible. The transience of beautiful moments, the sunset that will never repeat exactly this way, the child's laughter that marks a stage soon to pass. These create the emotional texture of human existence. Would love retain its intensity if relationships could last for centuries rather than decades? Would we cherish each moment if unlimited moments stretched before us? Growth often comes from endings. New beginnings follow closures. Would we ever leave our comfort zones if time's pressure didn't force adaptation? Now, for the first time, we might actually have to decide. These aren't just philosophical thought experiments anymore. They're questions we may need practical answers for within our lifetimes. How would we explain the concept of forever to our children? What rituals would replace funerals in a post-mortality society? How would we mark time without its ultimate boundary? Perhaps most profoundly, in a universe that operates on cycles of creation and destruction, birth and death, would humans becoming functionally immortal represent evolution or aberration? Whether we're comfortable with it or not, this experiment is already underway. Billions are flowing into age reversal research, and the pace is accelerating. The talent migration toward longevity science has become unmistakable. The first human trials of cellular reprogramming are likely to begin within this decade. Initial applications will target specific age-related diseases, a regulatory necessity. But the true goal is clear to insiders: comprehensive aging reversal. Dr. Richard Horton, editor of The Lancet, one of medicine's most prestigious journals, recently acknowledged, "We're entering an era where aging itself may be classified as a treatable condition. The implications are staggering." The results could fundamentally reshape our understanding of what it means to be human. Everything from career planning to marriage to financial systems assumes a roughly 80-year lifespan. What happens when that doubles, triples, becomes indefinite? For most of us, these questions remain theoretical. We observe from the sidelines as the ultra-wealthy fund these moonshots. But their success or failure will eventually affect us all. The pace of discovery is accelerating. What seemed impossible a decade ago is now achievable in animal models. Breakthroughs that researchers predicted would take 30 years are happening in 5. Will Bezos succeed in his quest to defeat aging? Will the technology benefit humanity broadly or create unprecedented inequality? And perhaps most importantly, would you want to live for centuries if given the chance? Would you eventually grow tired of consciousness itself? The way these technologies develop, who controls them, how they're distributed, who benefits first, will shape human society for generations to come. Perhaps forever. This isn't just about billionaires, it's about our collective future. A transformation potentially more significant than the Industrial Revolution, the internet, or any previous technology. The clock is ticking on these questions, but for Jeff Bezos and his fellow billionaires, the goal is clear. Make sure their clocks never stop ticking at all. As one researcher put it, death has had a perfect track record for all of human history, but every perfect record eventually meets its match. The sun rises and sets. Seasons change, species evolve, and humans have always died, until perhaps they don't. What would you do with an extra century of life? Would you want the option? And should billionaires be the ones deciding humanity's relationship with mortality? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more explorations of how technology is reshaping what it means to be human.